That's great. Thanks, Grace. Yes, and also going throughout the webinar, like if you do have questions, please do pop them into the question box. We will get them at the end. So my name is Orna. I used to do a tiny bit of running back in the day, but my background is very much in health psych and sports psych as well. And again, I think we have such an opportunity here this evening to have two such fantastic Irish athletes willing to share their story, highs and lows of how they got to where they got to today. And again, I would encourage you to have a paper and pen. If there's anything that really resonates with you, to jot it down, to write it down, and to come back to it at another time. Oh, we might actually mute some participants. I don't know how we do that. Perfect. It is such an opportunity, and again, these guys' time is so valuable. So again, I would ask you that if anything does resonate, to make sure that you capture that. So without further ado, I'll start with introducing Israel, and these guys' bios just speak for themselves. So Israel competed at the 2022 World Athletics Indoor Championships, reached the final of the 100 meters at the 2022 European Athletics Championships, the first Irish man to ever do so, finishing sixth in an Irish world record time of 10 seconds and 10.17 seconds. You can tell that I'm not a sprinter myself, was always doing distance. Israel broke the national record in the 60 meters in 2023 with a time of 6.57 seconds. So yes, very, very fast. Sarah competed in the Tokyo 2021 Olympics in the 1500 meters. She made it to the World Championship semi-finals in 2023 in the 1500 meters. She's the Irish under-23 record holder, European under-20 silver medalist, and European youth gold medalist in the 1500 meters and 3K. Also extremely impressive. So as you guys can see, we just have such a high caliber of athletes, and Ireland is producing such a high caliber, and these guys are really pushing the boundaries of what we have seen in terms of talent in Ireland. And again, it's good to know that these guys trained to get there. They came from very similar circumstances and clubs like yourselves. So it's really a really great opportunity to hear how they got to where they got to today. So I'll kick us off, and I might start with yourself, Israel. Basically, how are you doing? How is your Monday going? And what is a typical day like for you on a Monday as a sprinter, as a world-class sprinter?
Cheers, I'm doing pretty good. I'm happy to be here and you're talking to all you guys. I'm doing pretty good. Today I had a nasty gym session, so I was pushing some heavy weights, but not all good. So training's been going good this winter, so I'm excited to see what we can do next season for sure.
Nice. And was your weight session? Tell me a little bit more about that. Was it an intense weight session, or what's your Monday weight session like?
Yeah, so I guess Mondays would probably be, the heavier day. Okay. I do gym on Mondays and Fridays, so yeah, Monday is definitely the heavier day. So I get into the gym around 12. I do about 30 minutes of a warm up. I do some jump testing, so I do cardinal movement jumps and pogo jumps just to see where I'm at. And then I go into my lifts. Then after my lifts, I'll do some more like mobility and stuff like that, and then that's me pretty much done. So it takes maybe about like 2 hours to get through all of that. So
yeah. And when did you start going to the gym and being consistent with that type of like comprehensive strength training?
I didn't start till I was a little bit older. I kind of like when I was younger, because I used to do like a lot of different sports. I didn't really have time to be in the gym, so I kind of started properly in the gym maybe when I was like. Or when I started in college, I'd say. So when I was like 17, going on 18, that's when I probably like fully started in the gym.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I'll pass it over to you, Sarah. Same question. How are you doing? How is your Monday, and what does a typical Monday look like for you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. I'm in South Africa at the minute on training camp, where I've been here for 2 weeks and I've a week left. And Monday for me is normally I get up and have a long run, which is only it's 70 minutes, which actually isn't that long, but it's long enough for me. And then I do that pretty early, especially here while because it's warm.
Yeah.
And then I come back or I go home and rest for a while, and then I go to the gym later on in the day. And I do my weights, which I'm sure aren't as impressive, but yeah. And then that's it. And that's my training done. And then I also had physio today after that. So yeah.
Yeah. So like Israel, like good full Mondays. Good full Mondays. So would you mind telling us a little bit about how you got into athletics in the first place?
Yeah, I started really young. I think I was 8 or 9. But I just started because my older sister joined an athletics club and I went along with her. I think my mum just thought it was a good thing for us to be involved in, but I was mainly doing a lot of other sports as well. And then I just enjoyed it, kept it up, and I started doing a lot of cross country in the beginning, and then kind of just did the like Dublin leagues and was always better at the slightly longer distances. So I just kept it up, but I kept up all the other sports as well, and then kind of just realized I was best at athletics after a while.
Yeah. And do you know that when would it have been that you started thinking about, obviously you did a lot of sports, as you said, when you were younger, and then transitioning to specifically just doing athletics?
I didn't transition to just doing athletics until I was in university, so I would have been 18 or 19. And I was playing a lot of hockey while I was in secondary school, just because I really enjoyed that, and I'm really glad I did. But I think I just balanced the two well. I had a really good coach, and he never suggested that I give up hockey, so I just kind of balanced the two, and yeah, it just meant I was never really overtrained, but I always was like I was always keeping it up, but just sort of balancing the two. And then when I got to university, I decided to just stick with one.
Yeah. And that decision, was that a difficult one for you to change from doing hockey and running? Because obviously if you kept up hockey, there was obviously a love for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it was kind of a transition time because I was going to university and I had started to get a bit tired from trying to do both. And I guess at that stage I just did want to take it quite seriously and progress. So it was kind of an inevitable decision. But I kept all the friends I made playing hockey, so that's the main thing. And I might go back when I'm finished running and play. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And a lot of athletes do actually talk about that time of knowing when you're just like, like I want to give it a go. Yeah, it's really, really, really interesting to hear. And same question over to you, Israel. How did you get involved in athletics?
I guess I'm kind of similar to Sarah. I used to just like follow my sister to her athletics training, and I remember just watching her train, like and I thought it looked fun, so I kind of just joined in from there pretty much. That was when I was just starting in secondary school, so I was about 12 or 13. So that's how I started, and I ended up joining a club a couple of years later. I was just doing that with my school. Then yeah, a couple of years later, I joined Dundalk in AC and like.
Yeah. And did you instantly like it, or was it like a more of a gradual thing? Do you know when like you started going because your sister was going? Because I know a lot of athletes, it kind of something that tends to develop over time.
I guess like my interest did develop over time, but like to be honest, like from the start, like I really enjoyed it. More so like socially, because I was doing other sports. I was doing soccer as well at the time, and that was like very like serious and like almost like a hostile environment. But athletics was like more chill, more relaxed, and I got to meet like so many new people, and that was like kind of what kept me going really.
Yeah. A lot of people talk about the friends that they make in athletics and how that sometimes is the sticking thing for them. I know both of you mentioned transitions. So transitioning maybe from secondary school to college is one, and I know one that is one that involves a lot of change and a lot of choices to be made. Did you struggle at all with that transition, or what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I think it was a pretty like it was pretty like brain mind-wrecking time for me trying to
Yeah,
figure out like I guess what I want to do. Like, do I want to take athletics serious, or do I want to just I guess focus on school, or and there's also like the option of going like abroad as well.
yeah,
But at the time I didn't really see the option of going abroad as a realistic option for me because at the time I'd only been I guess training seriously for like 1 or 2 years. So
yeah,
I guess I was always going to stay in Ireland, but then it was the kind of decision where like I was doing I did computer science in college, so it was kind of a decision where do I want to take this seriously or do I want to keep going to my sport. But I was fortunate to have those support around me that helped me to take my academics and my sporting endeavors like seriously. I was able to put like equal effort into both of them.
yeah,
Um, and also I joined the new training group as well when I got into college. So I started like from in Dundalk. I was kind of training almost on my own with my coach, just one on one really, and maybe some of my friends who didn't even do athletics would kind of train with me and just race me from time to time. But then I kind of joined a more serious training group when I got to UCD. I started training with Daniel Kilgallen and the Tala athletics training group, and they had national champions and
yeah,
Irish international athletes. So it was a bit of a different environment to what I was used to, and it did take some time to adjust.
yeah, yeah. And obviously that sounds really amazing, but how was your experience of that? Did you enjoy that like transition? And you said almost like it was being taken more serious. Um, how was that experience for you?
Yeah, I did. I did enjoy. I did enjoy it. Like I wanted to be a serious athlete, and I wanted to train with the best guys, and I got the opportunity to do that. But it was a big challenge, just because I wasn't used to the training. Like
Yeah,
in secondary school, like it was a lot. It was more. It was more like more for fun, I guess. But with the new training group and Tal, like they were very serious, down to business. So I mean, I was enjoying it. It was a bit of a struggle to get used to, and my body did need time to I guess to adjust to that. But yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's awesome. And same question to you, Sarah. How did you find that transition between yeah, secondary and uni?
Yeah, I suppose it wasn't actually a huge transition for me just because I went to UCD and where I live or my family home is only about 15 minutes away, so I wasn't having to move out or anything like
Yeah,
that. And a lot of my friends and everything was sort of staying around. I definitely considered going abroad to America, which like a lot of sort of it was quite common for especially kind of longer distance athletes to go over. But when I was in school, things were just going really well for me, and I was running quite well in my last few years of school. So I just didn't really see any need to change it. And I knew UCD had everything that I needed there, and I wanted to stay with my coach. So that was the decision that I made, and yeah, then the transition obviously wasn't like logistically wasn't that hard. But I
yeah,
think I did struggle a little bit just because um yeah, there was just a lot more going on, and like obviously you have in school your life is quite rigid, and or I would just go to school and then go to training, and I was just happy doing that. But in university it's kind of you just have to balance a few more things. um and I feel like I probably didn't take as good care of myself, and definitely just a lot of like sickness and niggles, and I didn't run that well, or wasn't happy with my performances in my first year of university. But I think it just took me a while to figure out how to make that environment work for me.
yeah. And we'll come back to this question again at the end. But if you could go back to that specific time point where you were transitioning from secondary to university, um, is there anything that you learned from that transition? Um, yeah,
Probably just that, like you can't do it all. I definitely don't regret it because I think, I had a great time and I was making new friends and just kind of trying to be a normal university student. But and I'm glad I did because I think, I it just I enjoyed it, but then I also learned a lot, and I realized that like I really wanted to keep pursuing athletics, and I sort of needed to make sure it remained like the top priority. But I'm like, I think I'm still glad I had the experience.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that is a really important thing, as you said, like you can't have everything. You can do as much as you can to balance academic and friends and training. But at a certain point, it's like, yeah, you have to make some decisions, and it's cool to see and hear that process. And same question to you, Israel. Is there any kind of lesson that you learned from that transition that still stands to you?
I guess like probably one of the biggest things is just like I guess patience.
Yeah,
Like in a couple senses, like I was just joining like when you're in a transitional period, you have to just be patient with yourself and allow yourself to I guess grow and adapt to your
yeah,
surroundings really. I think that's something I kind of struggled with. Like my coach Dan, he sat me down and told me like after I told him this type of training, that I was kind of doing before, he kind of told me that yeah, this is gonna be a huge a huge
yeah,
step up. So just be ready to kind of take a step back before you start taking steps forward. And I didn't really live them, so when things weren't really going my way, I was a little bit upset. But so through that process, I learned that yeah, I just need to be patient with my progress and just understand that yeah, sometimes it is necessary to maybe to take a step back before you start taking those leaps and bends forward.
yeah, yeah. And that's something I think that we all, looking back as at our younger selves, like if we could have that patience and that trust in the process, that like these things do take time. Um, an interesting question, and one I actually haven't told you that I'm going to ask, but for a lot of athletes, there sometimes can be like a real favorite memory, or like a moment or a race or an event or a training session where things clicked, and you really were like, oh, I love it, I love what I do, and you kind of get that real alive feeling from your running, from the performance. So I'll give you both a minute because I know I'm springing this on you, but like, can you think of a moment where you were just loving your running, and everything made sense? And I guess like what led you to that, like what was described, what was going on for you, and how it made you feel, and kind of decisions you made afterwards. So you can take a second, but Israel, I am going to start with you on this one.
No, I don't
You're
worry.
lucky,
There's
Sarah. You'll get
yeah,
the next start.
there's already one that kind of like I guess jumps to mind. I guess when I was in how old was I? Was I under 17s, under six? I think I was under 16s.
Yeah,
I was doing the live athletics championships. This was like my first like ever like competition outside the schools. I just joined the athletics club at the time, and I went to the live championships and I won the 100 meters. And it was just like it was like sunny day. It was just really nice there. It was warm. And yeah, I remember winning, and I was like, damn, I can't believe like I've won like in my first like chance at this. And um yeah, from that moment I kind of got hooked on the on winning, I guess, but yeah, it was just like a great day. And from like then on, that kind of motivated me just to keep going. And that I made the right choice with I guess choosing athletics, because I dropped soccer earlier that year. So I kind of felt like I was like almost like I was being like rewarded, I guess. So yeah, I felt that was a great day, and made me realize that this is what I wanted to do.
yeah, and I think it's so important to acknowledge that sometimes, like you said under 16, and I know a lot of the athletes here will be kind of in that same similar boat and mightn't have had that breakthrough yet. But I guess it's knowing that it is coming, and that there was a lot of training and commitment that had gone into that before that moment. Same question over to yourself, Sarah.
Yeah, well, I think the moment for me is actually more about watching athletics than running. But I hadn't when I was younger, I didn't really follow athletics, or I wouldn't have watched it on TV or really known who any of the athletes were. But in 2017, so I would have been 16 at the time, my coach just started talking to me a bit more about some of the athletes kind of who were on the circuit or who were running globally, and especially in the 1500, which was sort of my event at the time, or still is, but I had sort of started doing it then. I think I just started to kind of follow them on Instagram and things like that. And then I got tickets to the World Championships in London that year. And I went with my family, which I'd never been to anything like that before. I'd never even watched them on TV. And it was just such a cool event. And I watched the women's 1500, and I just thought it was amazing. And I'd never really had aspirations of running. Like, I just wanted to win, and the races I was doing, like the schools races and things like that, but I never thought any further. So I think when I saw that, I just realized that it was really a cool thing to be involved in. I just wanted to get there myself.
Yeah. I think a lot of us will actually have, but I almost really have goosebumps of like when you see something and it just stirs something in you, and it's kind of like more of that, whatever that is. And sorry, did you say how old you were when you went to that race?
Yeah, I would have been 16, I think, at the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a similar time actually to Israel.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, next question up. You guys are doing so well, actually. Just just as a little check-in halfway point. A lot of the time, when we're talking about athletics and like those amazing moments of when you're like, yes, this is what I want, we can kind of like subconsciously set those goals of what we'd love to achieve. And obviously both of you are such acclaimed athletes yourselves. Well, I guess I wanted to ask a little bit like, how do you balance looking forward to the future, so setting that goal, and then obviously putting the steps in place to go about achieving that goal? And I think the interesting thing is like, how do you balance like that day-to-day commitment to getting there versus like where you actually want to go, especially like on some of those harder days? So yeah, I think it's how do you stay focused on the goal, and when that goal might be or might seem very far away? And I'll start with you, Sarah.
I think it's probably just about like habits and discipline, as opposed to like a massive sense of motivation sometimes. Because I've been like training for so long now that's just part of my day, and like it's just what I do, so I don't think too much about it. But I think like athletics is just one of I mean, every sport, I suppose, you get out what you put in, but I think it's especially true in athletics. So I suppose it's just like at the back of your mind, like that, where your big goals are, and most of the time they're in the summer. But I think yeah, you just kind of have to think about it week by week. And I think when you have a good training environment or a training group that you're happy in, it probably just makes the whole process a lot easier. If you can get like enjoyment out of the day to day, it just makes it easier to go through it like that, because obviously, yeah, you need to be enjoying what you're doing, otherwise you'll never make it to the goal or whatever race you're kind of aiming for.
Yeah. And you talked a little bit, and it does sound like, it was a gradual building in of athletics, to your life. But some of those habits, what would those kind of habits be that do set you up for that type of success where it's just part of your day to day?
Well, I suppose it's just like like I don't, view training as like a choice or anything. Like it's just, I would never think about just not going if I didn't feel like up to it. It's just part of my routine. And I think it's like when at the stage I'm at now where I'm doing it full time, it's kind of like most of the time you are making a lot of your decisions with athletics in mind. So just kind of naturally make decisions like, going to bed early, or making sure you're recovering and eating all the right things. But over time, I think they become more like habits as opposed to decisions that you're making on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And I wonder, does the environment you're in, also maybe help that as well. Like, can you talk us a little bit through like your environment around training and setup? Because I imagine if you kind of expect yourself to be there, it kind of takes away the hardship of deciding to go.
Yeah, definitely. I changed training group last year, or joined the training group I'm in now, and I have a lot more people around me and a lot more friends to train with, which is just been a huge part of like any success I've had in the last year, I think. So when you're around sort of like-minded people, it's easy. And I think everyone's kind of just supportive of one another, and we're all kind of going after the same thing. And yeah, just I think it just lifts you up so much.
Yeah. And for anyone who hasn't maybe yet found their environment, I'd say maybe to keep looking. You know, that sometimes these environments are built over time. And if that you're still looking for your people in athletics or in those environments, yeah, that's often, again, as I think Israel said, like these things aren't built overnight. And same question to you, Israel, how do you balance kind of keeping your eye on those big goals and then the day-to-day training?
I guess like pretty similar to I guess what Sarah said. I think um there's not much like I guess decisions being made. It's kind of uh it's kind of more like I guess you're like in a process really. Like you have to I guess the only decision you kind of have to make is I guess the type of person you kind of want to be, and then all your other actions you should kind of follow that. So like I guess if I have a goal in mind, I'm gonna aim to be the type of person who can achieve this. What does that person do? That person is gonna take care of their body, is gonna train hard, is
Yeah.
gonna take care of their mental health as well, all these things. So um, I think yeah, just focusing on being the person who can achieve your goals is a good place to start instead of just focusing on the big goal, because that can get daunting, and if you don't
Yeah.
achieve that, like because there's also external things that can impact whether you achieve your goal or not. But if you're aiming to be the person who can achieve a goal like that, then there's nothing really that can stop you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of that's something I've been, I guess, trying to work on recently, and so yeah.
Yeah. And when you're working on those types of things, do you chat them through with your teammate or with your coaches? Um, and I guess what a question leading on from that as well is like, how do you set those goals in the first place? Is that through chatting through your coach? Does it come from you? Or how is that process for you?
Yeah, I think it's important, the people who you surround yourself with. So like I would like chat through, my goals with my coach, my psychologist, and also like my nutritionist, and
Mhm.
just like everyone I guess in my circle. I'm always having these constant, conversations. I guess even when I was younger as well, talking through my goals with my coach as well, my parents and things like that. I think actually like, talking to people about it helps a lot, instead of just just being in your own head, because like you might think you know it all, or you know the right path to go, but it's always great to get advice from people more experienced than you, and are able to guide you along your journey. So I guess I've been lucky as well to have such great people around me. So I think yeah, the first thing to do is to surround yourself with great people that can help you, I guess, along your goals.
Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of feeds in as well to that environment piece and like surrounding yourself with those people who have, those even maybe goals for themselves, or are committed to doing what lights them up, what gives them that spark. And again, I will reiterate that if you haven't quite found that yet, to keep turning up and to keep training, and it is something that does kind of tend to happen over time, as you commit to your sport. So one or two questions as well that were sent in. So some of the athletes have sent questions in before, and one of them was, and I know actually Sarah actually mentioned that, when it comes to deciding whether or not to go training, that she's already decided that she's going, that there's not a decision in the process, it's just part of her day. But how do you navigate maybe training when you're not feeling great, and maybe mentally when you're not feeling great, do you have any tips or tricks on how to get the best out of yourself on those kind of tougher days? So I might start with Sarah on this one, if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think I've recently been thinking for the last year or so a lot about like you know, having control over your own thoughts rather than them controlling you. And I think like in races or at hard training, it's really normal to have like negative thoughts or to not be feeling great or to be thinking before the session like I can't do this or it's going to be so hard. But I think like once you just accept, like this year I've just been working on accepting that those thoughts will come and like it's only natural to have them, but it doesn't it they don't mean anything really, that they're just thoughts like floating about in your head. And once you view them as that and you kind of just accept they will be there, so you're not stressed out when you do have them, and then you just realize that they don't actually control what you do, and that you're the one in charge, I guess, of how the session or the training or the racing is going to go. And I guess you can just control your effort and your attitude.
Yeah, I mean that is just so powerful, because I think all of us can relate, Sarah, to having those negative thoughts of especially maybe coming up to those bigger events. For sure, I know as a young person, I definitely had them and thought I was the only one that had them. And I think it's so cool to hear from the likes of yourselves, and for the young athletes watching, that like everyone does have these thoughts, but like you say, they're just thoughts, they're floating around. It's not reflective of how your race is going to go, how your event is going to go, like the training to be done. It's literally just like the weather. It can come and it can go. And I think thank you again just for being so honest about that, because I think sometimes on social media we can see like quite a shiny exterior to like elite performance and athletes, and it looks like other people never struggle or never have a hard day of training. Um, and it's, yeah, just really cool to know that everyone is kind of in a similar boat when it comes to navigating those challenging times. Same question over to you, Israel. How do you tackle some of those tougher days on the track?
I guess, I think I really liked Sarah's point there. So just to piggyback off that a little bit, I think, yeah, just
Yeah.
like owning like your thoughts, and I guess when you have these bad thoughts, you might just want to avoid them, or they might like you might end up amplifying them by overthinking it. But I think when you accept it that you are feeling this way, and then you end up realizing that it doesn't really have too much control over you. It's not real. It's not gonna affect you, I guess, too much when you actually do own it. And I think that's the best way to conquer it. But I think another way as well is to just have discussions, I guess, with the people around you. Kind of as
Yes.
I was saying before, it's I think coaches play such an important role in athletes' lives, and I hope for every athlete to have a coach they can trust, they can confide in, and let them know, I guess, how they're feeling. I think that's so important. Like a problem, when you share a problem with someone, like it just feels almost like they've taken a weight off your shoulder by just listening. That's something I've, I guess, experienced, throughout my career. Having been able to discuss things with my coach if I'm not feeling too well, and firstly they'll able to maybe adjust the session, but also they're able just to give me like advice, really,
Yeah.
whether it's athletics related or just life related. So
Yeah. And what do they say, that a problem shared is a problem halved? And people start out as coaches and as teammates, and quite quickly they become friends and family, because these are the people who see you at your best and also probably at your worst when you're tired and not feeling great. And I think it's to normalize that process of, you're not always going to feel amazing coming to training. But what I gather from both of you is that like you still turn up, and then you share that, and then actually it's kind of reflected back to you that someone was like, oh, I actually wasn't feeling great last week, but I'm feeling better this week. Or sometimes after a training session you can really like feel like yourself again. And I think athletics is one of those things that people can think is quite an individual sport, but actually there's a whole community a whole environment around each and every one of us and those training groups. Yeah, and just both of you seem to be navigating it with great grace and honesty. So thank you for that. A fun question also came in is which is your, or what has been your favorite competition to date and why? So again, you have both ran some pretty cool, pretty big events, and we'd just love to hear which has been your favorite and why so. So Israel, I will start with you.
Oh.
Or I can start with Sarah if you're on the spot, whichever one.
No, I don't mind. My favorite competition, honestly, like it probably has to be nationals, like indoors or outdoors. Um, I know this isn't as specific as you probably wanted, but any national championship, like juveniles, juniors, seniors, like you just can't really beat that, to be honest. Just to race in Ireland, in front of your friends and family and supporters as well, like and like Morton Stadium is one of my favorite stadiums as well. So for the senior championships, yeah, it's just I wouldn't trade any of those competitions for the world, really.
Oh, that was quite heartfelt. That was so lovely, and I think it's cool for young athletes to hear that actually you could travel the world with athletics, but sometimes it's being on your home turf can actually give you such a great experience, a sense of home and community. Sarah, give us your favorite competition to date.
My favorite would probably be the World Championships from this past year, in Budapest. Like it was my best performance at a major championship, so obviously I enjoyed it for that reason, but mainly just how I felt there compared to in previous years. I had qualified for a lot of the big championships, but had kind of struggled to perform and dealt with a lot of nerves and just found the experience really hard. But I think this year I managed to just come in with sort of like a new approach and just enjoy the experience a lot more and be a lot more relaxed and then just be able to race the way I knew I was capable of. But I was just really proud of myself for not letting the nerves kind of get the best of me, and I think it was more that made it my favorite competition, just kind of knowing I had sort of dealt with that. And yeah, I think just I kind of know a lot of people on the team now, so feeling like everyone's happy for you and you're happy is really nice as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And a follow-up question that just struck me as I was listening to you is, you talked about like dealing with nerves, and you felt like you had dealt with them on this occasion. How do you kind of prepare for a big competition like that, and how do you deal with your nerves?
Yeah, I think like I've tried a lot of different things and a lot of different approaches, but I suppose it kind of goes back to what I was saying about the thoughts, because I think I sort of just in previous years I would have sort of let those kind of spiral out of control to the point where it just became a bit overwhelming. But I sort of practiced that a lot in training and in races leading up to the World Championships this year, about kind of being ready for them in the warm-up. And I even often have things that I write down that I'll know I can tell myself that will make myself feel better, so that when I have a bad thought I have a kind of logical response. And then I just feel a lot more prepared that way and a lot more calm, and I think that's what helps me.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing even some of those techniques, because I think everyone will have their own way of preparing for like these big races. But again, just knowing that even athletes like yourselves have those nerves, because obviously on the outside, and if you ever see athletes before big races, they look very composed. And not saying that you're not, but it is nice to know that having nerves is a really normal part of turning up and competing. But also there are things that you can do beforehand that put you in a really, really good position to actually, like you say, like run as you're capable, and that you had that great run within you. The same question over to you, Israel.
I guess like for me, that's something I'm still I'm still working on. But I've been trying different things recently. Like um, I think visualization is like a big thing that's kind of been, I guess, working for me. Um,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
in the days leading up to a race, the night before a race, even in the call room, just like I guess visualizing just like the performance that that I think I'm able to produce, and just like walking through it like very slowly and um thinking about it, and talking myself through it. I think talking myself through it as well is like a big thing as well, not
Yeah.
letting not letting the visualization get out of hand. um I think that just helps, I guess, ground me and you know yeah, just like not to let my thoughts kind of get out of control, and to also that also gives me confidence as well, that if I can see it, then I can achieve it. So I guess that's like a big thing that I've been introducing over the last while.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like as you hear, like both athletes actually have very different, you both have different approaches to it, but both of you do actually have specific techniques for managing and navigating those nerves. And again, just to reiterate that nerves are a very normal part of turning up and being an athlete. And I think that's part of the enjoyment of the big events is that you have worked hard to get there. And again, win, lose, or draw, that is part of athletics, is just putting yourself in the best position that you can and then seeing can you perform on the day. And not every day will be that day, but also like when you have visualized it and you've prepped as best you can, you put yourself in a really good position, yeah, to have a go and to see what you can do. Um, on the back of that as well, then, how do you recover? How do you recover from, let's say, either A, like a big block of training, or B, like a big event? So if you've done a big block of training and then finish with a big event, what's that process like after, yeah, after those big events? So Isabel, I'll start with you this time. Um, yeah, what does that process look like?
I guess like I think the main like area, I guess, of recovery I've had to focus on is more like my mental, I guess, recovery.
Yeah,
I think just after like a big race, or after your season is over, I think just really important to take a step away from athletics and to focus on other things that I guess might relax you or bring you joy. I think it's important not to put like all your eggs in one basket, I guess, in terms of your
yeah,
happiness, and to actually take a step back and to enjoy other things in your life. And I think that's going to help you come back when you come back to athletics. That's going to help you be as fresh as you can. I remember after the 2022 season, I just broken the national 100-meter record, and and my season was over, but there was still loads of, I guess, attention and different things going on, and like I was doing those interviews, and I was already thinking about the next season, how I wanted to push the national record even further, but I didn't give myself the time to mentally to rest and to just forget about athletics for a couple of weeks. Um, and that I kind of went into the 2023 season a little bit mentally fatigued. Um,
yeah,
so that's something that I've kind of worked on this past season, from on off the back of the 2023 season, just like leaving athletics alone for a couple of weeks and um, spending time with my family, my friends, just having fun, like I said, athletics, and I think that helped me come back much more refreshed, and I really enjoyed my winter training this winter. So
that's actually really insightful. I think sometimes it's a brave call to take that time to step back to gain that perspective. And I think it was one time Katrina McKiernan who said it once, is that she used to go straight back to back from big events into next training blocks. And it was one thing that she would have wished she had done more of, is to just take the time to appreciate what she had achieved, because we do live in a society that it's kind of like, what's the next goal and the next goal, and actually it's sometimes you just need to enjoy what you've achieved. Like, that's amazing. And to celebrate that win with your friends, with your family, kind of allow the body relax, I think is a really Yeah, a really important way to recover on the back of those things. And again, like this is all things we learn in hindsight. Sarah, do you want to shed a little bit of light on what that looks like for you?
Yeah, I suppose it's the same as a lot of what Israel said.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely important to be able to switch off from athletics, especially at the end of the season, but even just during a season, especially in the summer when I'm racing a lot, it can be kind of stressful, or there's a lot of things that you just attach a lot of importance to. So it's important just to be able to just relax and just have things that you enjoy that are kind of separate to athletics. And I think you actually see that with a lot of the top athletes, or the people who are at the top of their game. They do have that ability to switch off. And then it's the same in off season. I think this year I tried my best to just not think about it at all, and enjoy some time with family and friends, because you definitely would feel like a kind of mental burnout, I think, otherwise.
Yeah. And are there any things that help you like switch off or like transition from like training mode to like, more off-season mode?
I think, well, I think when I'm in my off season, it's just like I've probably been looking at that date for the last few weeks, knowing, and
Yeah.
that's a little bit different because it's kind of I've no training, and I'm almost going the other way. You're trying to see everyone do everything that you can't do
Yeah.
in your training. But during the season, I think, yeah, I'm not really sure. Like just little things, like they're just small things, probably just like how you relax, or if you meet up with friends for coffee or whatever, and talking about something that's not athletics, or just like reading or watching a series or whatever it is that you like to do. But I think it just does a lot. It does a lot if you're able to relax.
Yeah. And it's even cool to hear that, like, sometimes it is those really small things, like meeting your friend for a coffee, and not talking about athletics, or like watching a series. And I think as well, it's one of those things that sometimes those simple small things at the time don't seem that significant, but actually really do signal to your body that, it's okay to take a break. So last question for both of you. And again, you could take a second to think about it, but if you could go back to yourselves when you were younger, maybe around that time of like 16, when you were both having those experiences where you're like, I love athletics, or like you'd seen something, or there was something in you that like, yeah, I love this. What advice would you have for yourselves? Because a lot of people on the call will kind of be in that position. They might have had those experiences, or they might be having them soon. What advice would you have for them? So whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I guess like I probably just advise myself, just remember, the joy, I guess, that I had, at the start, when I first started athletics, and remember my for doing athletics, which was just have fun, to make friends, make memories, and to hold on to that, throughout.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone kind of would have like a similar, I guess, motivation at the start, because they just love the sport, and it's not because they want to, like, obviously we all want to be the best athletes we can be, but that comes from us having, a great love for the sport and what we do. So I think just hold on to that, love what you do, and just never lose sight of that goal, of enjoyment, of striving to just be the best athlete you can be, and don't let like anything take that from you, really.
Oh, I don't know about you, but I love hearing you talk about it. And Sarah, do you want to pass on some advice?
I'd probably tell my younger self to, I think things were going pretty well for her, so I tell her to just enjoy the good moments, and kind of like when you run good races or PBs, to enjoy it a bit more, and to realize like this is like to not always be looking for the next thing straight away, just to kind of take those in and enjoy them, because I'd also probably tell her like it's not going to be smooth, and you're not just going to keep getting better every year like you have been up until now. So I'd probably just tell her to enjoy it, and be prepared that that like it might not go as smoothly as you think, but like it'll come together in the end if you just keep at it.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think they are just two such powerful messages to finish on. I know that we're just coming up to 9 o'clock, so we have a few minutes left. If anyone does want to write in a question, you're more than welcome to send them in on the chat box. Again, I just really want to thank both Israel and Sarah for being so honest this evening, and just like sharing as well some of your processes, your techniques, how you navigate a whole host of different situations and training groups and races and experience. And yeah, if you want to, if there are no questions, the other one I was thinking of asking is what's coming up for you guys next? So what's next on the cards for you? Yeah, oh, we have a question coming in from Suzanne. Is that a national medal hanging on Israel's wall?
Yeah, it's my, which one is this? The national seniors from 2023. Both my national seniors from last year, the indoors and outdoors. Yeah.
Oh, very good. And you also actually have more medals as well on the other side. Now that I'm looking at those now.
Yeah, I've the Youth Nations Cup from 2019, and then the other one is just like a random medal from like a 5K or something, I think.
Oh, very good. Very good. So yeah, do you have big races coming up, either of you, soon? Or I know Israel, you said your next one was the end of January?
Yeah, I'll be opening up my season just like on the circuit around Europe. I'll do a couple races, and then I'll go to nationals, and then I have the World Indoor Championships I've already qualified for. So that's the big one, and then outdoor season is Europeans. I have to qualify for, and hopefully the Olympic Games as well. That I hope to qualify for. So yeah.
Busy, very busy. And Sarah, I'd say you're in the same boat in terms of your racing schedule.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. I'll just race indoors, and then hopefully I've qualified for World Indoors. So I'm hoping to go there, and then the same outdoors with Europeans and Olympics. So I guess hopefully would love to be at them all.
Yeah, two busy schedules. So listen, I'll let everyone go. Thank you so much for everyone for